Hello and welcome to the latest video from avforums.com. This time we're going to be looking at the picture settings we obtained when calibrating the review sample of the Samsung UE65KS9000. We'll be taking you through night and day settings plus a quick look at the optimal HDR. And the first thing you want to do, this is for a nighttime setting by the way, we're going to press the settings button on the remote, which is towards the bottom at the left hand side. You can see this brings up the settings menu, and the picture mode you want is movie for the most accurate out-of-box image. Then we need to go into the expert settings. We have backlight at 5, which gives an output of about 140 nits for nighttime viewing. Brightness is at default 45. Contrast we have to knock down to 95 from 100 because the panel was clipping. Sharpness we rein back to 0. Colours at default. Most of the adjustments, well, all the adjustments are done in the colour management system. Now you can choose to apply these to the current source or all sources. We'll just do the current source for now. Digital clean view can be off. Analog clean view doesn't come into it for digital sources, of course. Auto motion plus, feel free to experiment. What we would say, if you're going to have it on, use it in the custom settings, otherwise it's very soapy. And perhaps something like blur 4, jud at 2 or 3. Maybe experiment with the LED clear motion, which does as a black frame insertion technique, but that dims the panel, so you'll have to up the backlight setting. Personally, we didn't really find any need for them to be on. The smart LED controls the local dimming system. We certainly felt that low was definitely optimal, otherwise you're getting haloing around bright objects on dark scenes, particularly off angle. Now if you've got UHD sources, external sources, a Blu-ray player in other words at this time, you need to switch it on for the particular source it's attached to. HDMI black level auto, dynamic contrast off, there's really no need for that. Colour tone warm 2 gives the closest to D65, and we're going to dive into the white balance, both 2-point and 10-point settings here, so pen and paper at the ready because we're just going to fly through them. This is the 2-point, and then we'll quickly take you through the 10-point, starting at 10% stim. That's 20, there's a little tweaking there. 30, 40%, that's 50, 60, 70, quite similar in the middle there, 80, 90, and probably just a tiny tweak at 100, yes there was. Now we're going to quickly dive in. So we have gamma setting rather at -1, which gives us close to a 2.4 gamma, which is good for a dark room. There's no need for the RGB only mode unless you're calibrating with tinted specs. Color space custom. We'll start at the top. Red. It's red. Green. Blue, yellow, cyan, and magenta, and that's about your lot. We'll be back in a second with the daytime settings. Okay, so we're back with the daytime settings, and again you want the movie picture mode. It's still the most accurate day or night. Nip into the expert settings, and we can see we've got backlight at 11. Now that'll give you an enormously whopping light output. The KS9000 is a seriously bright TV, and that should combat ambient lighting almost everywhere but a conservatory perhaps. We've left brightness at 45. If you're struggling with shadow detail, you can up that by 1 or 2. Contrast again at 95. Sharpness at 0. Colour we've upped to 53 to oversaturate and over illuminate to combat light. That's the way to copy the settings to other sources. Digital clean view off, auto motion plus off, Smart LED again at low. Now film mode, this is applicable to interlaced sources and will detect film cadences within the signal. And it's very effective, so have that at auto 2 for all your interlaced sources. Again, that's how you set HDMI UHD colour per input. Dynamic contrast off again, colour tone still warm 2. Now we've got the gamma settings here. We've done that +1. You might want that at 0. It depends just how bright your room is. White balance, we're just going to show you 2 point. There's no point in going trying to be true precise with a daytime setting. There we go, it's just some slight variances on the nighttime settings. And again, we've got the colour space at custom, and we've just literally repeated the settings from the nighttime. We'll be back in a moment with the HDR settings once we flick the TV into HDR mode. Okay, we're back, and this time in high dynamic range. And once again, it's the movie picture mode. Down to the expert settings now. This is going to be fairly basic. There's only so much you can do in terms of calibration at this time with HDR. And again, it's going to be dependent on your room to a certain extent. The backlight, we've nipped back to 15 from 20. Now it doesn't give you the full 1000 nits peak luminance, but it's plenty for a darker room. You can have a play around with it. Brightness was left at default. Contrast at 98, sharpness, sorry, that should be down at 0. We'll just take care of that. So it's not copied across from the other source. Colour at default. Digital clean view. Again, that should be off. Analog clean view doesn't apply to digital sources, of course. Auto motion plus, again, we've got off. Smart LED, now you really have to have on high to get the proper brightness in spectral highlights in certain elements of the picture. Of course, you'll have to have the HDMI UHD colour turned on for the HDMI input applicable, unless you're streaming or playing off USB. And dynamic contrast we've switched off. Samsung recommend it on, but I find it crushes detail. Colour tone again, warm 2. Now gamma, to get the EOTF response more favourable, we up that to +2. That might vary from set to set, to be quite honest. Into the white balance, just 2 point adjustments here, and they're very basic. And the Rec 2020 mode is out of scope for the CMS, so we've had that in native, which tracks actually closer to DCI-P3, but it's a more even response than you get from auto, which is what Samsung suggest. And that concludes the look at the picture settings of the Samsung KS9000. Thanks for watching.